Well, this is our second author interview in a row. It's got to be a record.
Cool. Well, because we had Lee Goldberg on.
Lee Matthew Goldberg.
Lee Matthew.
He's a stickler on that. We poached a lot of writers at Thriller Fest to interview because you were all so fascinating. So normally, or not normally, half the time I'll give the little bio of the guest, but I think you would be better, Puja, giving your own bio than one of us talking about you like you're not here. So give us the Cliff Notes version of your author journey from, because you started with self-publishing, right? And then transitioned, and now you're a big deal.
Awesome. So I had the idea for my first book back in 2008, 2009. I was visiting my parents in Kuwait, which is where I grew up. And the Kuwaiti political system is pretty nuanced. You have a democratically elected parliament and a monarchy, so parliamentary democracy, but the monarchy is much, much more liberal than the democratically elected parliament, which is not what you'd really expect. And so what happens is they butt heads, and then the emir, the monarch, fires them, and then they're reelected a couple months later. And in the meantime, he pushes some kind of like legislation through, and that can be, they butt heads on things like traffic lights, and then also important things like women's right to vote, which took him quite a while, I think. Almost a decade to push through, and then 5 years more officially. So when I was home on that trip, the emir had fired parliament for the 8th time in 10 years, basically, or something along those lines. I mean, it's just been racking up the numbers, so you just stop paying attention.
Right.
But then the thought occurred to me, like, why wouldn't someone from the Islamist faction in parliament, which has gotten more and more powerful, try to hire an assassin to get rid of the emir? Because it would certainly further their agenda. And that was the central idea for the first book. And in the process of writing it, I discovered, a profession. It was supposed to just be like, I'm going to write down this idea because it's fun, and because I was a big reader, like, why not just test it out? And then after writing it, knew I was going to keep doing that. On the publishing side, I didn't really understand the industry, so I'll give you a very Cliff Notes version of this. I spoke to 2 agents, but not understanding that. And these were people who I was connected to through my extended network, and I had no idea how the industry works, that, authors submit 50, 100 queries, all of that stuff. I just spoke to those 2. One of them gave me some great feedback, which I implemented in the book, but she sort of said, this is too international for an American publisher. I don't think it's a fit. And then the second one essentially implied the same thing, although she was less explicit. And
does too international mean too niche in terms of subject matter?
Yeah. I mean, 50% of that book takes place in Kuwait and 50% takes place in Iran. I think that's what they were kind of getting at. I have sort of, I do think, so this was back in 2014. So, I think the industry has become a little bit more open to that stuff. I do think I would still get that point from a lot of agents, a lot of publishers probably too, but I didn't query, so I don't know what would have happened there. I just was listening to Hugh Howey's podcast on self-publishing and decided to go that way. So found a great editor. I was really lucky. I found her through the Maryland Writers Association, and she turned out to be awesome. And then sort of figured it out step by step. So found a cover designer, got it up. Initially, it was really, really hard. It was very much like, okay, now what? It's out. And, I wanted to start working on book 2 in the series, and a standalone that I'd written. And I did start those things, but I had no idea how to handle the marketing stuff, and sort of figured
there was no marketing plan in place. I'm not being critical. I'm just curious.
No, not at that time. There
But
wasn't really a good marketing plan until about book
Right.
3 of the series. Sorry, I think, Michelle, did I interrupt you?
Yeah.
No. I mean, this is probably the wrong time to ask this question, but do you feel like the opportunity for self-publishing or the prospects for self-publishing were better in that 2008, 2009, 2010 period than they are now?
Oh, I mean, if I had published in like 2010, 2011, I think it would have been much easier. So I didn't publish until 2014 because I rewrote the book a few times and then was like, what do I do with this? Probably should have just queried at some point, but did not. So
why didn't you query?
I mean, at that time, it was mostly because I just didn't understand how the industry worked. I thought that to talk to an agent, you had to be connected to them. So it was kind of like, well, these are the two that I can sort of get connected to, like friends of friends, that kind of thing. And
those agents didn't tell you, like, oh, you should try other people.
Not really. And I mean, it did, by the time the second one came back saying it wasn't a fit for her, at that point, I did know about querying, but I was really tired of waiting and had sort of decided that maybe, and I just figured they were right. Like, I just figured that I was going to get the same opinion no matter what agent I spoke to. And I don't think that's true at this point. I mean,
no,
but
not at all.
I didn't understand that at all. And so
that's the first time I've heard someone who self-published, because it's usually like, I got tired of querying. I got 1,000 rejections. I got discouraged and so on and so forth. And then they're like, well, I'll just self-publish it and get it out there. But it's never been, I just didn't know. So I went and self-published. I kind of like that method better.
Yeah, because you're not jaded when you're going in. You're like, 2 people said no. Oh my God. No, I mean, maybe you were. Maybe you're like, oh my God, these are the only 2 agents in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were the only 2, but I was just like, okay, I guess that's the industry speaking. So I don't think readers will care. So I'm going to figure this out, was kind of what I sort of went.
I mean, I think you're right there. Readers won't care. But,
yeah. And I mean, I've definitely discovered that since, but by the time book 3 came out, I actually had a real marketing strategy. And that's when I started getting an audience.
Right.
And it was a great launch for book 3 in the series as back in 2019. And then things sort of moved from there.
Wow.
When did you get a lit agent?
I still don't have an agent, actually.
Wow, what an awkward question I've asked.
Well, I haven't tried to get an agent, really. So for my standalone psychological thriller, Sirens of Memory, I was all set to self-publish it, because I had figured out the process by that point. So I was just like, all right, well, I'm doing this. And Scott Montgomery, who's a good friend and used to run the mystery thriller section at Book People in Austin. I'd done some events and he'd read and loved my books. And so he mentioned that I should send the book to Jason Fincher at Polis Books, small press. And I said, sure. I mean, can't hurt. Why not? So I sent it to him. I kind of got lost in, the inbox world, I think. And then a few months later, Scott wrote to me again, like, oh, Jason never heard from me. Well,
what?
Right.
Send it to him, but I'll resend it. And I was all set to have the book out I had a launch plan and everything. I think it was coming out in 2 months. So I just started with my mailing list, like working on that and stuff. And then basically got an offer from them immediately. And so weighed the pros and cons and decided to give it a go.
Chantel was your editor on that one, right?
And she's amazing.
Good. She's a friend of Book Pipeline. Chantel Amy Osman. 3 names.
One amazing person.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And such a good editor. Like, he definitely championed the book, and her comments made it much better. Like,
was that process kind of like, I wouldn't say grueling, but like I always ask authors on like, they think their book is all set and then the editor starts reviewing and then starts picking everything apart or, in most cases, right? What were your kind of initial impressions? Was it overwhelming or was it, you kind of took it?
I mean, broadly, I took it, but I didn't know how to fix it at first, So she mentioned a couple of things related to pacing of the book. So for context, Sirens of Memory, about half of it takes place during the Gulf War in Kuwait. Mm-hmm. And then the other half takes place in 2015, in modern day Austin. And so the original draft of the book had a flashback for the Gulf mm-hmm. War portion. And then the later version that was finally published uses a dual timeline. So you alternate. Yeah.
I started it, by the way. It moves. Oh. It's funny you mentioned the pacing because I'm like, this is moving. It's such a quick pace. I felt like myself it just moves at such a quick, entertaining clip. Awesome. So just saying, there's my compliment for the day, Michelle. I'm all out.
He's all out. All right.
It's not easy to get that kind of pacing. And I know because in my own book, I'm struggling with pacing issues, totally different genre, where it's difficult to kind of, let's keep it going. Right. So yeah, it's a skill I'm sure you've kind of had to hone.
Yeah. And I think, so my big hesitation, because when I heard her comments around pacing, so part of what makes it work is that in the modern day portion, the initial part of the story is slower, and then picks up. And then during the war, the initial part is fast as, the Iraqis invade Kuwait and they have to take shelter and all kinds of things. And then it mm-hmm. slows down when they're in the refugee camp and trying to slowly figure out a way out. And so by using the dual timeline, I think that really gives you some fast and then some slow, and it just kind of
you have to have that juxtaposition, right? That mm-hmm. sort of yin yang of pacing, I think, in everything. What were the thriller authors? What were the thriller books that kind of set the tone, set the foundation for you, even before you started writing the first one?
Frederick Forsyth is my kind of all-time favorite, especially his early stuff. Mm-hmm. So The Day of the Jackal, The Odessa File, The Dogs of War, and Icon.
All right.
So Icon is also a dual timeline story. And I'm sure that was a big influencing factor for me. So the first book I published, Ahriman, the Spirit of Destruction, that's a dual timeline story. And when I had that out, I figured I would never again do a dual timeline story, which is
was it harder?
Part of why I was so hesitant to do it in Sirens of Memory. And then it was the best way to make the story work. And
but do you feel like, do you not like it because it's trickier to pull off properly, or is it just not your preferred style of structure?
Oh, no. As a reader, I love it. Frankly, I love it.
But as a writer, you don't like it so much.
Well, I've just found that the audience always likes, always is a very, overblown word in this, but tends to prefer one timeline over the other. And so they're more interested in either the past or the present, and that really driving them to, be all into that pacing, I think is a little difficult. But I think actually I think most audiences are open to it. I do think that there's some readers who just don't like dual timeline, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win them over, no matter how well you do it. But I do think that with Ahriman, that first book in the dual timeline, I tried to make it so obvious by putting months on every single chapter. And I actually think I made it harder because people thought that it wasn't linear. And it's no, when it's in the past, it's linear. When it's the present, it's linear.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I have since actually taken that out so that you see the jumps, right? So you see when it's 2021 and you see when it's 2015, but you don't have months in the individual chapters anymore. Because I think that confused people more. They're like, oh, wait, September now. Before last chapter was that, that was July. Okay.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Just change the font.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, those headings are a different font, but
why can't we be more open-minded as readers? Like, one's in Comic Sans is the past, and then the future is like, Baskerville Old Face or something. Wait until I'm a publisher and you'll see some crazy books out there. So
yeah. Okay, so now I realized that you kind of went into this, I don't want to say naive or anything, but you were like this fresh face and you were just like, yeah, I'm just going to go and self-publish, and that's awesome. So, but like, how did you even figure that out? And then how did you figure out like marketing and stuff? Even a traditional published author will still have to, unless you're like Stephen King or something, you're going to have to do some sort of marketing for yourself. So how did you learn all of this?
So I tried a lot of things and then, basically was like, okay, this thing didn't work, but this thing worked kind of well, or this thing worked, but it took way too much time and energy. So I'm not going to do that again. And then there's sort of differentiating, because there's stuff that you'll do as an author that would broadly fall into the like marketing PR characterization that move books immediately. And then there's stuff that you do that might, broaden your audience, get new people to be interested in you, probably, but it may or may not move sales in the sort of immediate time period. And so recognizing that for me, the stuff that I do that is more about that longer term audience building is something that I have to get something out of immediately. That was a big realization. So it's like, social media, I'm not huge on. I'm doing a little bit more now for the first time since my most recent book came out, a little bit playing around with Instagram. And then I don't mind Twitter because it's mostly just the author community talking to each other. I find that it doesn't feel marketing-y. It just feels like talking to my community. But that's definitely not moving books.
But you never know. If someone retweets your tweet and someone else sees it and someone buys it, every little bit does help, I think. And the author community on Twitter is in a better headspace at the moment of this podcast taping, July 3rd, 2023, than the screenwriting community. I can say that.
Okay.
With a definitiveness. Well, there's no strike going on amongst the authors union because there is no authors union, right?
Yeah, maybe there should be, but no.
Perhaps there should be. But you know what I am finding though, not to segue, but also to segue, because I am curious on your thoughts on this too. It feels like there's like with the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, the film and TV writers, there's this like brewing cultural revolution, if you will. Very different than China's cultural revolution, side note, but a cultural revolution of sorts. Michelle, that was for you, the history buff.
Yeah, I know.
Where they're really rebelling against like the system that's been like disrespecting them historically for many, many years. And writers, to me, having been off and on writing for the majority of my life now, it's still the most disrespected part of the arts outside of like being a abstract painter or something, right? I tweeted the other, a couple of weeks ago about how someone tells you they're a director. There's, the general population. Oh yeah, you're a director. Like, oh, you're acting. Oh, what have you been in? And if you're writing, their immediate response is like,
anybody
do you have
can do that.
Yeah. I can do. I have a story for you. Or like they ask you what you're like, do you have a real job too? Right. Which I'm sure Puja has gotten, which I'm sure Michelle has gotten. But Michelle does have a real job, so it doesn't matter. And I'm sure Puja does too. But my point being that constant, like that's planted in you at a very young age when you start writing. So there's this sort of like, they're finally just like, we've had enough. We're going to go do our own thing, or we demand this and this and this. And I'm seeing that sort of spill over into other areas. I'm seeing that spill over into the author community too. And I'm wondering if you see that as well. Like people finally saying like, no, this agency stinks and here's why. And just calling out the bad seeds. At least I think they're the bad seeds, or at least having that discussion or that discourse.
Yeah, I think that it's happening more, but I also think that self-publishing is a big driver for that.
How so?
I mean, I think the big reason for that is there's the lead child level authors who are treated amazingly well by their traditional publishers, and they're doing great. So I'm going to put those aside.
Sure.
And then there's a pretty large group of traditionally published authors who aren't getting big book deals, but are traditionally published. So they have, a stamp, and some of them are even with, let's say, the big five or with Amazon, but they're not moving, massive numbers of books. And the publisher's not always. I mean, I'm sure there are many exceptions, and there's a whole range. So I'm not going to label any specific one, but
of course,
where they're still doing most of the work in terms of the actual marketing, their publisher's not putting that much or very little money behind it. Maybe they sold to a bunch of libraries, they made back the advance, and then the publisher stops doing things, or, there's all kinds of ranges there. But they're not really putting in the time and money to invest in, like, let's say, especially newer authors, because a lot of it relates to finding the right audience. It's not just about like, oh, you sold well or you didn't. It's like, well, did we find the audience within 2 weeks of the launch? And that's not always easy.
No.
Right. I think that the number of times that truly hits is pretty low, because if every book could be like Eat, Pray, Love or Harry Potter, they would be, and they would be amazing.
So you're saying they're not giving it time to like breathe and ramp up and grow organically, essentially. They're just kind of like, either it's a hit right away or it's not.
Yeah, I think there's that mentality, which, before Amazon and self-publishing, especially just before Amazon in general, I think it really was about whether you had a good launch or not. Even though, sometimes a book that has to do with, let's say, it relates to certain world events or something can find an audience later. And I think that's the really cool part about self-publishing is that, around the time book 3 of my series came out, I started finding my audience for book 1. And that wasn't related to current events. That was related to me finally understanding how to do some version of marketing, which is going to be a lifelong journey, I think.
Because of the very reason you're talking about, and that every other author talks about, even if you get published with a big 5, they're not helping you much with marketing, right?
Exactly. And so, I do think that the power dynamics of the industry are starting to change a little bit, because especially some of the bigger name authors, they get maybe some of the rights to their older books back. Like, well, do I want to try and maybe I should self-publish this because I've built up an audience over 10 books, 15 books. I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers, but that starts to change the dynamic of the industry, especially when you have a small, albeit small, cohort of self-published authors who are doing incredibly well, like way better than the vast majority of traditionally published authors.
Is there still I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I mean, it's definitely a small group, but they're really doing great, pulling in thousands and thousands of dollars a month, big audiences, all of that stuff.
Well, that's my question, I think, to both of you. I feel like we've asked this before to other authors. There's still a stigma, a huge stigma over self-publishing. Like, it's not real publishing. Like, this is where all the failures end up. And I'm just being, that's not true, obviously. But that's the optics, though, of it still, right? But at the same time, I think most of the people I've known that have self-published, they've all made more money than when they later went on to get traditionally published by a small press or even a big 5 publisher, for that, in at least 2 cases. Why does that stigma still exist? Which is a loaded question, and I'm sorry for asking it, but I'm asking it anyway. So there we go.
I think that the stigma still exists because industries are old and slow, and they just kind of take time to realize and adapt to things. If somebody asks the question, like, is there a lot of garbage that's self-published? Yes. but there's also a lot of garbage that's traditionally published.
Absolutely.
And those kinds of, that stigma, I think, perpetuates, though, because people are not willing to be open-minded. I don't think it's intentional. I think when they meet people on an individual level and hear about good stories, they're open to it. But industry-wide, it's more closed. And that just takes time. You'll hear, like, when I've asked people for blurbs, I've definitely gotten the response from, older, more established writers. Not all of them, absolutely not. And most of them have been incredibly supportive. So I'll caveat that. But I've definitely gotten a response a few times where it's like, oh, your book's self-published. Sorry, I can't do blurbs for anyone who's self-published. And it's like, wow, okay, that's a little extreme, because I think you decide who you do blurbs for. But, whatever it is, I've gotten versions of that before, and that's just an older mindset in the industry. And I think people just sort of cling to what they know. And, I've heard somebody say that the process of getting published and editing for agents and then editing for editors makes you better, but you can still have a great editor who is freelance. Like, of course, an editor makes you better. I have no qualms about saying that, but it's just that publishing houses don't have the monopoly on that.
Do you think too, it's the fact that there's no gatekeeper in self-publishing?
Yeah.
And writers keep saying down with the gatekeepers, but also, up with the gatekeepers, because they're also acting as a filter, but also they're terrible, but also they're necessary. It's like, make up your mind, for one, but also it's once something is tainted, and I hate to say self-publishing is tainted, but it kind of is still, right? Again, in terms of optics only, it's hard to degrease it in a sense, right? You can't barkeeper's friend it and make it like pretty and shiny again, because it never really was. So I don't know. It's a complicated question. But that's a good answer regardless. Michelle?
Well, I think this is something that I've thought of. It's like self-publishing is like being self-employed. And you kind of have like the same, when people are like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, I work for myself. And they're like, oh,
sure you do.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
And I think with our current, like the gig economy growing and things like that, I think the optics around self-publishing too has changed, but I still think there is this, because there's a lack of a gatekeeper, just like, if you're self-employed, there's nobody hired you, right? Therefore, you didn't have to go through an interview process or like get weeded out from this like avalanche of CVs, So yeah, I think that there's this feeling that it's second rate or even third rate in some way, or maybe it's like a lower quality.
That's a great analogy too. Like when someone comes up to you at a party and they're like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like,
and you're
all
like,
right, so you're unemployed.
So you're Bill Gates? No. But
they're very successful entrepreneurs. They're just pitching themselves wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the part that has always worried me with self-publishing, for me personally, is just the marketing side. And that's one of the things I admire so much about you, Puja, is like you are fearless in that regard. Like you were able to figure it out and just trial by error and just, process of elimination, like figure out what works for you. And for me, I know me, and I know that before, like, I don't know, 2 days would be up, I'd be like, oh my God, this is not working. Therefore, yeah. So yeah, there's that whole, we hate gatekeepers, but at the same time we want them, but at the same time they're terrible. At the same time,
you need them.
My God. Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad. I do hate them.
Too, before you make the next point, the thing too is when you're self-publishing and you hire an editor, your editor is kind of the gatekeeper too, right? Because they're putting you in check. They're the filter. They're making things are in shape. Some authors do not hire an editor. They're like, my work is brilliant and I'm just going to put it out there, and they can, and they do. Right. And that doesn't help. the image of self-publishing at all.
Sure. It doesn't help the image of self-publishing, but I will say I was reading a sample on Amazon yesterday of, I'm not going to say which author it was, but let me just tell you, New York Times bestseller author. And I was reading the sample of one of their books. I spotted like 3 grammatical errors in the first page.
Mm-hmm.
How's that possible?
And it was a Penguin Random House publication.
Ooh, wow, yeah.
Hardcover. And I'm like, what? So that actually turned me off. I was like, oh, this is reading nicely. And then I was like, what is this? And
was it Colleen Hoover?
No, it
was
wasn't.
It Emily Henry?
I'm just naming names. It did start with a C, oddly enough.
Recently published.
No, and this is not a recently published one either. This is like from a couple years ago, but it was like his or her
McCarthy.
Or like 5th book,
Right.
So it's not even like their first one. And it had like, I don't know, 10,000 reviews, but like page 1 and page 2. And
were they blatant or were they like objective? I mean, subjective.
No, definitely not subjective. Definitely not subjective.
Okay.
That's crazy. And all within the Amazon sample. So that's
within the Amazon sample. So it could have been something that they like fixed after the fact, or this is like from a previous edition and they just updated or something. I don't know. But
all this to say, a good editor is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, definitely a good
absolutely.
editor is worth its weight. I will say, like, in the nonfiction worlds, oh my God, like I went through so many editors, and I have been reading my published version, and I will say I haven't found any mistakes except for, I think, one so far, but it was like in a footnote, so I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, editors are helpful. I just don't know that it's necessarily, you can't just bank on, even if you're with a big 5 publisher, that those editors are really going to give complete scrutiny, to your work, because they've got other things to do too. So.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, even the best editors will miss, small stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. So shortly after the second book in my series got a BookBub promo, which was amazing. So those BookBub promos move thousands and thousands of books, in one day, which is awesome. But I definitely had some BookBub readers report. I mean, over the course of, for a 350-page book, I think there were 4 errors reported. I think there were 5. One of them, I was like, no, that's not actually an error. But the other ones, I went back and I fixed them because I was like, wow, this is great. And this was over the course of the whole book. It was not on the first page.
That's pretty good.
I think I would have found out about them earlier, but I just remember being really impressed. Like, wow, people paid attention. They noticed this stuff. And I was just glad that it wasn't very many for a long time.
Oh my gosh, you should have turned it on its head and been like, congratulations, you found the buried treasure or whatever. You get a free free t-shirt. I don't know. Do you do t-shirts? No. Okay.
Free t-shirts.
I mean, maybe I would have if I knew who, because they report it through Amazon. And so,
okay.
But I was glad to have the notes. I'll check for this.
That's awesome.
I had a suggestion for thriller writers and merchandise, but I'm not going to even get into this.
Oh,
like
now
customized bloody knives or something. Yeah, well, depending on the story, you never know. Puja, we met at Thriller Fest, which was my first year there. Michelle hadn't been there in some time. She had been before. It was great. Yeah. Just everyone was just very pleasant and nice, and everyone just was tickled to death to be there, and they all looked like they were having a good time, which not every conference is that relaxed, I think. You did a panel there. You had a wonderful time, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a lot of fun, hanging out and talking to people, especially at the bar or at lunch or just randomly in the hotel.
It is something,
people meeting them.
Yeah, it is something you can't recreate on Zoom events. There's there's something to be said about virtual conferences and virtual events that are even more beneficial than doing it in person, besides the cost, obviously, but just being there around other authors and just talking about stuff that may or may not even relate to publishing is
invaluable.
It's invaluable, Michelle. Yes.
Absolutely.
Are you going to BoucherCon? I know that's kind of your genre jam too, right?
Yeah. I love BoucherCon. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It has a different feel because there's a lot of readers there as well.
Yeah.
So during the day, it's more like reader focused. They come to lots of panels and things like that, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Discover that. Well, they discover new authors that way and that kind of thing. But then at night, it's very similar. It's just the authors hanging out at the bar.
I am pleased to say we are a sponsor this year of BoucherCon. Book Pipeline is. So I will be going down there for 5 days. And Michelle, you'll be there?
I will be there as well.
Oh, good. Maybe we can hang out.
Oh, maybe. As if we haven't talked about this in great detail already.
We should record a podcast episode.
Oh my God. What a thought.
Yeah.
I didn't already think of.
Yeah, I go to pretty much every BoucherCon. Then I think now I'll go to most Thriller Fest going forward, but I hadn't been in a while.
Yeah, it's not cheap to go to New York for a week or whatever.
No.
But San Diego's a little bit more or less cost prohibitive. You're based where? In
Denver.
Oh, the author community in Denver, I was told, is booming.
I have heard that, and I've only just started to kind of put my, dip my toe in the water there. We did move here right before COVID, and so there's probably things that were happening virtually that I definitely did not know about. And then now I have heard about the author community, but I sort of need to actually go to some stuff. So I finally became a member of the local chapter of Mystery Writers of America a few months ago, and they're pretty active. They do kind of a mix of virtual and in-person stuff, but I definitely want to go to the next monthly meeting in person. They usually have like food or something. You have to buy a ticket. It's a whole thing. You have to plan in advance, basically. And I'm not always as good about that stuff. But I'll definitely need to do that for the next one.
It's nice that most big cities have some sort of like author sort of core where you can go and hang out with other authors. I feel like that's changed for the better for the last like 20 years. You don't really have that a couple decades ago. You two are too young, but you didn't have it back then. At least I don't think. I'm 85 years old, by the way.
Oh, wow. You don't look a day over 50.
Well, you got to moisturize, young ladies. That's a sign that the podcast episode is winding down.
Matt, you had a bonus question for her, remember?
Oh, I did have a bonus question. I jokingly told Michelle, I'm like, I have to ask her what her favorite bagel place is in New York City. And she's like, oh, she was talking about that with Lee at Thriller Fest. And I'm like, I thought she was kidding, but apparently you were talking about that with Lee, Matthew Goldberg at Thriller Fest.
I was talking about bagels in the sense that, so I used to live in New York, and I thought one of the things that I would try and eat while I was over there this time for Thriller Fest, the really good New York bagel, because I do think they're better when they're from a good place.
True.
Mediocre bakery in New York is not necessarily better than a great bakery elsewhere, but a great bagel bakery in New York, I think, will beat out.
Significantly higher, yes.
Wow.
But we didn't end up going. So I still have to go and try the place Lee recommended. The best bagel I've had in New York was a small place out in Queens. I don't remember the name. It was next to a good friend of mine. She lives out there, and she was like, oh, we're going here. And we went, and it was amazing. But I don't remember the name of it, sadly.
I bet you I know what Lee suggested, if you remember it. I think he probably suggested Essa Bagel.
That sounds right, I think.
She didn't even write it down, Michelle.
No, I was
just getting this.
We were at we were at a diner.
Honest.
We were eating. There's no pens around. What do you expect?
No pens in a diner. Outrage. Well, Esta Bagel is the correct answer. I like Liberty Bagel, personally.
Okay.
Russ and Daughters, it's okay. You can skip it. Liberty, pick a bagel, I think is not bad. And Esta Bagel. Glad we've had this conversation. I will not include it in the title for this episode, but it's a good way to button things up.
I mean, trying out, local or like the specialty food in any city I go to is for sure one of my favorite things to do. So,
what's the best spot in Denver?
Denver is not a huge food town. That's the one.
Denver's not a huge food town.
I mean, it doesn't mean that there's not good food, but the best food I've had is cooked by my dear friend who is a professional chef. And so anything that we eat out I've not had anything that measures up. Other than, he hasn't made sushi and we go out regularly to an all-you-can-eat sushi place. But even then, that's like very good sushi, especially for all-you-can-eat prices.
Right.
It's not like incredible transcendent sushi.
Right.
Which there is one place in Denver called Sushi Den, but I'm sure it wouldn't, and that is transcendent sushi, but I'm sure it wouldn't compare to what you've got on the coast.
You never know. A lot of mass market sushi over here.
Mass market sushi.
Well, you can catch salmon in Denver locally and chop it up, right? No?
Salmon? Locally?
I don't know.
The trout, actually, Rocky Mountain trout is
I was
excellent.
Gonna say, I don't think it's
How come
salmon.
they don't use trout for sushi?
For sushi?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think river fish is used much for sushi.
No, raw trout isn't really sounding appealing.
Yeah.
It's all marketing at the end of the day.
Yes.
Definitely.
So the Big
true.
Five would have no idea how to do it. No, zing. Take that, Penguin Random House.
Really spicy now.
Yeah, because if Penguin Random House knew what they were doing, they would have said Penguin House instead of Penguin Random
Penguin
House.
House. The igloo, they'd call it, their headquarters.
Yes.
Penguins don't live in igloos.
Yes. See?
Co-opting
We've got
other
this
things.
branding thing down.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's amazing. I love it.
Well,
Spiraling downward this episode.
No, this is about where like the music's cued and everything. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay.
Before you cue the music, I will thank Puja Guha. Am I pronouncing it properly?
Yeah,
It's such a great name.
thank you.
It's very like
pronounce.
it's very like firm and like demands respects. You know, it's no Michelle Daniel or Matt Misitich. You know, Puja Guha's doing a book signing. You have to go to it.
There's an impetus there.
Well, I hope most people agree with you, Matt.
Yes, most people don't. So good luck. But that's
Now they
okay.
do.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Puja's book, Sirens of Memory, is joyous and exciting so far. You've had 5 published books? 6. Oh, so close. 6 published books so far. I plan on reading them all. Puja.
Oh, thank you.
When I see you at Voucher Run, I'm going to bring the book I have, and I would kindly ask that you sign it and inscribe it.
Oh,
Yes. I'm so
my
excited.
pleasure.
How good.
The pictures and everything.
Yeah,
The
I'll
real
wait in
thing.
line. Hey, anything we can do to promote good authors, I'm here
thank you.
for. Okay, I am stopping recording now, Michelle, because I don't know how to end podcast
all right,
episodes,
me
as we
too.
all know. Stopping. Okay, and I know you have to go soon, Michelle, too. So,
All right.